Hello, welcome back to Desperate Living. Now, in the last decade, the character of Paddington Bear has seen a huge burst of popularity thanks to the movies, which were big box office hits, and against all the odds, and certainly against my own cynical expectations, proved to be genuinely charming movies that both respected the character and expanded the story into a more broad narrative that would work as a feature film. Admittedly, I've not seen the third film yet, but certainly the first two movies are both absolutely delightful and hugely entertaining, much more so than you could have ever imagined. But are the films as good as the original TV show from 1976? That's an interesting question. Luckily, I now have the TV show, so we can make a comparison. So this new release from Fabulous Films contains 2 discs, a little booklet that acts as an episode guide, and features both seasons of Paddington, both the original 1976 series and the 1979 to 1980 revival, as well as the 3 TV specials from the 1980s. Paddington famously used a curious mix of stop-motion animation styles. Paddington himself was a 3D, traditional kind of stop-motion figure, whereas all the other characters in the show were 2-dimensional drawings that were very crudely animated. It gives it a kind of interesting and unusual feel. As with many British TV shows aimed at kids in the 1970s, if they were animated, they all have their own very unique style that is nothing like anything else. Sadly, we've entered a world now where everything looks very generic and all animated shows tend to look exactly the same. Narrated with good humour and charm by the always brilliant Michael Hordern, the episodes run for about 5 minutes each and are gentle entertainment. Paddington continually gets into trouble, but there's no real sense of threat or danger, much less than in the movies, which obviously have to build a more interesting narrative that would last for 90 minutes or so. But the Paddington of this show just gets into minor little scrapes that will be non-threatening, non-scary for kids watching. Those of you who know the films will be familiar with the characters, though they're slightly different here. We don't get much of a feel for what the Brown family actually do for a living. Always a curio with the movies that we figure that the Browns live in an entire house in Notting Hill, very nice house in Notting Hill, so are not exactly short of cash. Their home would probably set them up 12 to 15 million. In the TV show, it's perhaps more understandable that they would have this house. Notting Hill was still a bit run down and a bit edgy at that time, though they do have a housekeeper as well, so not a poor family, shall we say. But nevertheless, I think it's a completely relatable series. It's a lot of fun. When I first saw this as a kid, I was genuinely charmed by it. It became one of those shows that you would absolutely watch. Now, having said that, of course, when you were a kid, you just watched anything that was on children's TV by and large, and particularly the little 5-minute slot that came on just before the news. That was the slot where you'd see things like the Clangers, Magic Roundabout, and so on and so forth. 5 minutes was quite long enough just to be gently entertained and eased into the adult viewing of the evening news. So the question is, do these hold up? Are they better than the films? And it's a stupid question because these are clearly a very different animal. These are light snacks, whereas the movies are full dinners. You can't really compare the two. The Paddington character is very similar to the one in the movies, you'll be glad to hear, complete with his hard stares, his levels of indignation, his genuine charm, his politeness. Everything is there. The supporting characters like Mr. Gruber, the antique shop owner, and the miserable Mr. Curry, they're here too, but again, they're supporting characters in a very short programme. Paddington will go on adventures with Mr. Gruber from time to time and may butt heads with Mr. Curry, but there's no room for massive plot development, obviously, in a 5-minute show. It goes without saying that each episode is standalone. They don't continue as a story from episode to episode. The show does obviously start with the meeting of Paddington Bear and the Browns, but after that point it's all very episodic. So will kids like this today? I can't for the life of me see why not. I mean, it's a familiar character, the style of the animation is probably not what they're used to, and that might seem a bit weird, but also weird's not a bad thing. Everything looks the same, as I said, so to see something that looks completely different might be quite exciting for kids these days. But let's be fair, this is primarily going to be bought by nostalgic adults who just want to recapture the joy of their youth, and there's nothing really wrong with that. I mean, this is a fun set. As I say, nicely restored, so now it's going to look great on your big screen TV. Obviously, it's not widescreen or anything like that, but that doesn't really matter. But it's great fun. It's the kind of thing that you could probably sit down with your kids and enjoy as an entire family. My God, if you watched this when it was first broadcast, you'd probably be sitting down with your grandkids, let's be honest. However, you can all sit down together, watch this, discuss how you first discovered Paddington Bear. So this is thoroughly recommended. Fabulous Films have put out quite a lot of classic kids TV shows recently. We've reviewed some of them on the website. I'll leave the link. Shows like Bagpuss, The Clangers, Camberwick Green, Trumpton, that kind of thing. They've all been absolutely worth owning. So this is comfort food TV. Nice, reassuring, relaxing, gentle. Just the thing we need at the moment. Check it out. So if you enjoy these looks at new releases, old releases, nostalgic studies and video essays, then by all means, if you've not already done so, subscribe, like the video, share with your friends. And if you're so inclined, you can always support us on Patreon and buy me a coffee to help us continue to do this sort of thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.